so I included here, so talking about the standardized protocol, so you have here, they have 4 different access levels, where we have 3 because the embargo is just it's just a temporary access level. But you have open, closed, and restricted. Okay. And an example from our catalog, so the data access is stated in the so as you arrive on the collection page, it's right there on the safeguarded along with the DOI, and the access options are safeguarded, open, and control. So moving on to interoperability, I always have a problem saying this word. So what does it mean? So data sets are interoperable if they are machine readable, if they contain machine readable metadata, and they are in specific formats, language and vocabularies. So as you know, digital data is very much software dependent, and if in 10 years from now you're publishing data that, say, the software that you're publishing in will not be available, then that of course is a problem. And in terms of what formats should be used, so the best practice is that they should be community agreed, and this can vary across disciplines. Of course, they should be open formats as opposed to proprietary. They shouldn't be encrypted, and they should be suitable for long-term preservation. The best advice here would be wherever you're planning to publish your data, to contact them in advance, because they will have guidance on, you know, what, for example, we have a list of acceptable and recommended formats on our website that we require researchers to deposit their data in. So every archive will have a version of this, but of course it should be pretty much the same across all archives and repositories. And to give an example, so the metadata will need to use a community standard and vocabulary such as the DDI schema. Probably you've heard of that. And because of that, the data can be harvested in the CISDA data catalog, which I'm not sure how much should I explain about this. You're probably familiar with CISDA. Can I get a show of hands? People yeah, okay. Okay. So they harvest data from all partner archives in Europe, and that's how they do it. They pull all this information, all this metadata in their data catalog. Okay, so an example of what it means. So I used here so what it should ideally should happen is that metadata should be captured consistently across data collections and versions of the same study. And I gave here an example in Standing Society. So many of you probably have heard of it. It's one of the largest panel surveys in the world. And there's 27 years of longitudinal data, and includes questions on migration as well. And some information, so metadata is captured every year for every edition. If we look in our catalog, there are 483 collections for Understanding Society. So the important thing here is that the same information is captured for all these studies, for all these 483 results. So things like key topics, keywords, temporal coverage, methodology, observation unit, kind of data, weighing, and sample size. And another example, I used the EMM survey registry. So the same metadata is captured across data collection. So we have, and this is very good, it's very detailed. So you have the scope of study, you have the region, you have some national information, the starting date of survey, the end date of survey. So you have all this information that allows all the sorting that you can do. So you can sort using all of these criteria. So is the data reusable? So what you have to think about here is, does it have accurate and relevant attributes and provenance information? So you can think of it as either machine readable metadata or text format. By machine readable, are all these different fields that you fill in when you deposit data, if you're doing it yourself or the archive does it for you. But these are machine readable because you tick a box and you tell it this is survey data or what what level of geographies, low geographies, aggregated data, etc. And text format, that would be, for example, an abstract of a paper. That is text format, that is not machine readable necessarily. What a machine could do would be look for keywords in that abstract, but it's not necessarily considered machine readable. And doesn't meet domain relevant community standards to allow it to be reused. And a key point here is the license that the data is available under. Stating clear reuse rights is having a warm welcome on the door of your data set. So to make reuse as likely as possible, you should choose a license that makes data available to the widest audience possible and makes the widest range of uses possible. So again, going back to that open access, of course, it's desirable to have your data as open as possible, but it's not a requirement, or it doesn't have to be that way. So it's a legal agreement. So a license agreement is a legal agreement between you, the creator, the depositor of the data set, and the data repository, signifying what a user is allowed to do with your data. So depending on the access level, as mentioned before, the less restrictive the access level is, the less restrictive the license will be. So for open data, we have the Creative Commons licenses with variations, and I think there's 7 of these. And then for safeguarded, so for restricted access, you have the end user license with variations. And every publisher or data archive or data repository will have their own version of this. And here's an example of ours. So you have a summary text of what the user is allowed to do with the data. So for example, delete the data at the end of the study, even if it's possible to identify some of the people in the data, that they will not pursue that. And this is a legally binding agreement, there can be consequences if someone does not abide by this. So now moving on to useful resources. So we have the Social Science and Humanities Open Marketplace, which I think the phase 1 will be launched this December. Is it December? Yes, December. So it's a discovery portal which pools and harmonizes all the social science and humanities tools, services, and software, data sets, training materials, and activities, workflows and scenarios that can be useful for research communities, and can be useful throughout the research data lifecycle. So from collection to archiving and publishing. So if you wish to make your data fair, this open market SSH open marketplace can be used to find relevant software and services, describe how it aligns with standards and open science principles. So, for example, if you in your research you're using a specific software, or you want to use a specific software, you can either access it from here, or you can receive guidance on whether that software is a good idea to use in terms of fairness. And also links to tutorials and other training material, link to a forum where your peers can be, they can comment on, I use this tool, I use this software, how did that go, etc. So I put a timeline there as well. So the second phase is in December. The first release is in June. Yeah, and we are looking forward to this. Okay, and also, well, you've heard of the SESDA data catalog and SESDA in general, but they have a very good data management expert guide. If you haven't had a look at it already, please do, because it's very comprehensive and it's very useful. It's really helpful. It includes expert tips, so in terms of so data management, data processing, planning, organizing, documenting, etc. And then I included their set of data catalog, so it has over 14,000 data collections. This is pulled from all the European partners. And okay, now we have ourselves, so you can also find some information from our website on. So we have data life cycle. If you're planning to share on legal and ethical as well, rights, how to document data, how to produce documentation for your data, formatting your data, storing, training. We have some tools and templates, and then of course how to deposit, how to prepare your data, and so on. Another very useful resource is the DMP Online. The data management plans are more and more popular, they're more and more demanded, they're a very good idea to have at the beginning of your project. Can I just ask how many of you have written a data management plan so far? Okay, so quite a few. So it's a very good idea to do at the beginning of your project, and it's an important step that can help throughout the project with various aspects. And what this does really, in our experience, we found that it's very useful because it puts things in the mind of the researcher. I have to do this, I have to take care of this. Whereas, it prevents you from getting to the end of your project and realizing, oh my gosh, I don't have my data in a format that I can publish, or I have to publish, so this is very, very useful to have, and it should be a living document, so you shouldn't produce it at the beginning of your research and forget about it. You should really consult with it every now and then, just to make sure that you are on track. And this is a very useful tool too. You can create it online, you can have other people comment if you wish to make it public, etc. And then we have the Go Fair Starter Kit. So it's a starter kit